नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Hare Krishna. Okay, we are reading from chapter number 9, canto 1, verse number 26 today. Purusha swabhava vihitan yatha varnam yatha ashramam vairagya ragopadhibhyam amnato bhayalakshanan Purusha swabhava vihitan yatha varnam yatha ashramam vairagya ragopadhibhyam amnato bhayalakshanan Purusha swabhava vihitan yatha varnam yatha ashramam vairagya ragopadhibhyam amnato bhayalakshanan Purusha swabhava vihitan yatha varnam yatha ashramam vairagya ragopadhibhyam amnato bhayalakshanan Purusha swabhava vihitan yatha varnam yatha ashramam vairagya ragopadhibhyam amnato bhayalakshanan Purusha swabhava vihitan yatha varnam yatha ashramam vairagya ragopadhibhyam amnato bhayalakshanan Mataji's Purusha swabhava vihitan yatha varnam yatha ashramam vairagya ragopadhibhyam amnato bhayalakshanam. Word for word meaning. Purusha, the human being. Swabhava, by his own acquired qualities. Vihitan, prescribed. Yatha, according to. Varnam, classification of castes. Yatha, according to. Ashramam, orders of life. Vairagya, detachment. Raga, attachment. Upadhibhyam, out of such designations. Amnata, systematically. Ubhaya, both. Lakshanan, symptoms. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. At Maharaj Yudhishthir's inquiry, Bhishmadev first defined all the classifications of castes and orders of life in terms of the individual qualifications. Then he systematically, in twofold divisions, described counteraction by detachment and interaction by attachment. Purport. The conception of four castes and four orders of life, as planned by the Lord Himself, Bhagavad Gita 4.13, is to accelerate transcendental qualities of the individual person so that he may gradually realize his spiritual identity and thus act accordingly to get free from material bondage or conditional life. In almost all the Puranas, the subject matter is described in the same spirit, and so also in the Mahabharata, it is more elaborately described by Bhishma Dev in the Shanti Parva beginning from the 60th chapter. The Varnashram Dharma is prescribed for the civilized human being just to train him to successfully terminate human life. Self realization is distinguished from the life of the lower animals engaged in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. Bhishmadev advised for all human beings 9 qualifications. 1. Not to become angry. 2. Not to lie. 3. To equally distribute wealth. 4. To forgive. 5. To beget children only by one's legitimate wife. 6. To be pure in mind and hygienic in body. 7. Not to be inimical towards anyone. 8. To be simple. And 9. To support servants or subordinates. One cannot be called a civilized person without acquiring the above mentioned preliminary qualities. Besides these, the Brahmanas, the intelligent class, the administrative men, the mercantile community, and the laborer class must acquire special qualities in terms of occupational duties mentioned in all the Vedic scriptures. For the intelligent men, controlling the senses is the most essential qualification. It is the basis of morality. Sex indulgence, even with a legitimate wife, must also be controlled, and thereby family control will automatically follow. An intelligent man abuses his great qualifications if he does not follow the Vedic way of life. This means he must seriously make the study of the Vedic literatures, especially of the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. For learning Vedic knowledge, one must approach a person who is 100% engaged in devotional service. He must not do things which are forbidden in the Shastras. A person cannot be a teacher if he drinks or smokes. In the modern system of education, the teacher's academic qualification is taken into consideration without evaluation of his moral life. Therefore, the result of education is misuse of high intelligence in so many ways. The Kshatriya, the member of the administrative class, is especially advised to give charity and not to accept charity in any circumstances. Modern administrators raise subscriptions for some political functions but never give charity to the citizens in any state function. It is just the reverse in the injunctions of the Shastras. The administrative class must be well versed in the Shastras but must not take to the profession of teachers. The administrators should never pretend to become non-violent and thereby go to hell. When Arjun wanted to become a non-violent coward on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he was severely chastised by the Lord Krishna. The Lord degraded Arjun at that time to the status of an uncivilized man for his avowed acceptance of the cult of non-violence. The administrative class must be personally trained in military education. Cowards should not be elevated to the presidential throne by dint of numerical votes only. The monarchs were all chivalrous personalities, and therefore monarchy should be maintained provided the monarch is regularly trained in the occupational duties of a king. In fighting, the king or the president should never return home without being hurt by enemy. The so-called king of today never visits the warfield. He is very much expert in artificially encouraging the fighting strength in the hope of false national prestige. As soon as the administrative class is turned into a gang of mercantile and laborer men, the whole machinery of government becomes polluted. The Vaishyas, the members of the mercantile communities, are especially advised to protect the cows. Cow protection means increasing the milk productions, namely curd and butter. Agriculture and distribution of the foodstuff is the primary duties of the mercantile community, backed by education in Vedic knowledge and trained to give in charity. As the Kshatriyas were given charge of the protection of the citizens, Vaishyas were given charge of the protection of animals. Animals are never meant to be killed. Killing of animals is a symptom of barbarian society. For a human being, agricultural produce, fruits, and milk are sufficient and compatible foodstuffs. The human society should give more attention to animal protection. The productive energy of the laborer is misused when he is occupied by industrial enterprises. Industry of various types cannot produce the essential needs of man, namely rice, wheat, grains, milk, fruits, and vegetables. The production of the machines and machine tools increases the artificial living fashion of the class of vested interests and keeps thousands of men in starvation and unrest. This should not be the standard of civilization. The Shudra class is less intelligent and should have no independence. They are meant for rendering sincere service to the three higher sections of the society. The Shudra class can attain all comforts of life simply by rendering service to the higher classes. It is especially enjoined that a Shudra should never bank money. As soon as the Shudra accumulates wealth, it will be misused for sinful activities in wine, women, and gambling. Wine, women, and gambling indicate that the population is degraded to less than Shudra quality. The higher caste should always look after the maintenance of the Shudras and they should provide them with old and used garments. A Shudra should not leave his master when the master is old and invalid, and a master should keep the servants satisfied in all respects. The Shudra must first of all be satisfied by sumptuous food and clothing before any sacrifice is performed. In this age, so many functions are held by spending millions, but the poor laborer is not sumptuously fed or given charity, clothing, etc. The laborers are thus dissatisfied and so they make agitation. The Varnas are, so to speak, classifications of different occupations, and ashram dharma is gradual progress on the path of self realization. Both are interrelated, and one is dependent on the other. The main purpose of ashram dharma is to awaken knowledge and detachment. The brahmacharya ashram is the training ground for the prospective candidates. In this ashram, it is instructed that the material world is not actually the home of living being. The conditioned souls under the material bondage are prisoners of matter, and therefore self realization is the ultimate aim of life. The whole system of ashram dharma is a means to detachment. One who fails to assimilate the spirit of detachment is allowed to enter into the family life with the same spirit of detachment. Therefore, one who attains detachment may at once adopt the fourth order, namely the renounced, and thus live on charity only, not to accumulate wealth, but just to keep body and soul together for ultimate realization. Household life is for one who is attached, and Vanaprastha and Sannyas orders of life are for those who are detached from the material life. The Brahmacharya ashram is especially meant for training both the attached and detached. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Actually, after this purport, there is no need to speak anything. We'll chant prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhas तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं. वन्दे अहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीरूपं साग्रजा पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नितिरामिने. नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे.
कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्यनामिने गौरवाय
नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणम्। Hare Krishna. So there are a lot of these game of life sessions going on these days because of these new college students, and we describe to them in the game of life how people perform so many daredevil acts to gain happiness. Right? I was thinking, speaking on Bhagavatam on Vyasas, and like this is also a daredevil act. Of course, people can't find happiness. Happiness is elusive when they do daredevil acts. But this daredevil act I am doing to get purification, and I'm sure to find the purification just by speaking about this. But before that, actually, I find myself as I sit here extremely unqualified to speak on this exalted matter. So I seek blessings from all of you that whatever I speak is for my own purification, is for your pleasure, is for the pleasure of their lordships. Especially after this purport of Srila Prabhupada, I felt that there is no need to speak anything because the purport so elaborately explains the Varnashram Dharma. This verse is about Varnashram Dharma. So whatever I heard from various acharyas, from various lectures and things like that, I will just try to repeat that. So, okay, with that we'll start. So, there's a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, verse number 6, Canto 2, chapter number 1. Etavan Sankhya Yogabhyam Swadharma Parinishthaya Janmalabha Parah Pumsam Ante Narayana Smriti. So, Janma Labha Parah Pumsam. For people, the highest perfection of life, Janma Labha, the highest perfection of human life, is whether we practice various types of yoga, whatever different types of yogas that we practice, or even Swadharma Parinishtaya, even our duties, occupational duties that we perform. The highest perfection that we can get is to remember Lord Narayan's holy name, Lord Krishna's remembrance at the time of death. And here Shukadev Goswami is describing how Bhishmadev attained this perfection in this section of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we can see that the emphasis of Srimad Bhagavatam is to get completely detached from this material world and completely get attached to Lord Krishna's name, Naam, Rupa, Guna, Leela, all this, so that we can go back to the spiritual world. The emphasis of Mahabharata, although Mahabharata contains Bhagavad Gita, so the highest spiritual knowledge is given in Bhagavad Gita as well, but Mahabharata emphasizes on how to make our stay in material world comfortable, right? And performance of dharma or duty is essentially to ascend to heavenly planets, and this is what is emphasized, and that was one of the reasons for despondency of Vyasdeva also. Of course, the purpose of all these things really is to attain love of God, but the emphasis is given on this. Emphasis is to be virtuous, become pious, and attain heaven. Therefore, it is described in Mahabharata, Bhishmadev, after passing away, he attained his position of Vasu. Right? So, whereas Pandavas, it is described that they first see hell and then they go to proceed to heaven. But we see the emphasis of Srimad Bhagavatam is completely different. It's totally different. It's all about bhakti, going back to spiritual world. Pure devotional service is the aim of Srimad Bhagavatam. We see here how Shukadeva Goswami is describing that Bhishmadev, he went back to the Vaikuntha planets. And even Pandavas went back to the spiritual world. So, to attain perfection of life is the aim of Srimad Bhagavatam, and that's the emphasis here. So, just as an introduction to this verse, Yudhishthira Maharaj is starting to ask questions, various questions to Bhishmadev, and Bhishmadev is lying on a bed of arrow, extremely difficult situation to be in. And Lord Krishna inspires Yudhishthira Maharaj to ask these questions despite all the great sages being there, just to glorify Bhishmadev. We saw that yesterday as well. So what we'll try to discuss today is where Bhishmadev is starting to answer these questions. So the first aspect that Bhishmadev answers is what is the duty of king. And the first duty of king is to establish this system of Varnashram, engage everyone that is there in the kingdom in the activities according to their natural propensities, and that way benefit society overall, as well as make some forward spiritual progress. So these are the two benefits of this Varnashram Dharma that we'll see, how the overall society is benefited, and as well as there is a spiritual upliftment for everyone. So the striking thing that I observed in Srila Prabhupada's purport is the 9 commandments he gives, right? There are 10 commandments, but here there is like 9 commandments that of course Srila Prabhupada is describing based on Mahabharata, what Bhishmadev says in Mahabharata. And I was just going through these various commandments, like not to become angry. And I was trying to imagine, I get angry every day, pretty much. Practically every day I become angry. Or say not to lie. I mean, each of these things is so difficult to practice in our life, right? To distribute wealth equally, to forgive. My God, this is such a difficult qualification. Then to be pure in mind and hygienic in body. We are trying our best to be pure by chanting the holy names. Not to be inimical towards anyone. To be simple, to support servants and subordinates. And these are so difficult. Each one of them is so difficult to practice in our life. And Bhishmadev describes that these are the minimum qualification to be human being. He has not yet started describing the Varnashram Dharma. This is just Samanya Dharma. All human beings should follow this. So we can understand the quality of human life in the Vedic times, right? These are like everyone follows these aspects, 9 commandments, so to say. And actually even Narad Muni describes some of these in Canto 7, Chapter 11. Not exactly in the same words, but something very similar. And I was thinking, what should I apply in my life out of it, right? So what should I take? At least I can understand that if I don't follow these, they may become obstacles on the path of spirituality someday, right? So of course, by chanting the holy names, hopefully they should go down. But if they are not going down, then those become the obstacles on the path of spirituality. So there's a minimum qualification of a human being, and we should all be very careful in observing those. So then starts the Varnashram. After that, the qualities of Varnashram. So Shudra that we talk about, it's like qualities of Shudra starts after that. So, and when we say that Kalo Shudra Sambhava, that most of the people in Kali Yuga are Shudra, I don't know whether they are Shudras also, right? Because it's very difficult to see even these qualities of minimum qualities of human being in the society today. So we'll speak a little bit about Varnashram Dharma. So what is Varnashram Dharma? So Varnashram Dharma, Prabhupada has wonderfully described in the purport. It is actually the original dharma of everyone in human society. in actually the entire universe, for that matter, for human beings. And it's created by God. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4.13, Chaturvarnyam maya srushtam gunakarma vibhagashah tasya kartaram api mam vidya kartaram avyayam. So the whole idea is that, of course, um, in terms of soul, the dharma, the duty is one, which is Jivere Swarupa hai Krishnera Nityadas. However, when we acquire this body, the modes of material nature are acting on us. And depending on which modes are acting on us, depending on that, there are various different tendencies that people have. There are Swabhav is formed out of that, various different natures, various different inclinations that people have. And based on those inclinations, they like to do certain activities and they don't like to do certain activities. This is very natural inclination that they have. And we'll see some of the examples of that as well, how naturally inclined people are to certain activities. So what does Varnashram achieve? So Varnashram prescribes duties for them according to the inclination, so that one is very eager to carry them, one is very naturally inclined to carry them, and that results in social benefit. There is a social benefit because when a person performs these activities, the entire society benefits, and there is a spiritual upliftment, there is a purification that happens as well. So it's a very scientifically designed system by Lord Krishna. And we will see it is very natural, it is not very unnatural system. So, of course, since there are modes of material nature acting, so there is a natural inclination for sense gratification. So wherever required, the facility for sense gratification is also given, also allowed, but in a restricted way. But the goal is always purification. The goal is always detachment. That is important aspect of Varnashram Dharma also. Like sometimes a medicine is given along with a sugar candy, but the goal is not sugar candy. The goal is actually the medicine to get cured. And that's what Varnashram Dharma does to us as well. So it is also described, Varnashram Dharma is also described in terms of a social body. If we consider society as a body, then Brahmanas are the head of the body. The head of the body, there is an intelligence associated with the head, there is a vision associated with the head, hearing associated with the head. So Brahmanas are supposed to be the intelligent class, and they are supposed to guide the society, entire society. Kshatriyas are compared to the hands, and they are supposed to protect the entire society. And Vaishyas are compared to the belly. They produce the food. They are the only class that way who make the money, right? And they essentially give charity, they give taxes and things like that, and they grow the food, they do animal protection. So that's the belly of the body, social body. And the legs of the social body are Shudras. So Shudras are the ones who are supposed to serve the rest of the three classes. Now, if you ask, okay, what is the most important part of the body? Actually, all the parts of the body are important, right? We wouldn't like to cut either our hand or leg or our belly or something like that, right? But still, it may happen that sometimes a hand is cut or a leg is cut, we can still survive. But a head is cut, then it is very difficult to survive. So Brahmanas are considered to be very important, and all the kings, in fact, the seal of Shivaji Maharaj, right? I was reading some article written by His Holiness Radha Maharaj. The seal of Shivaji Maharaj, it contains protector of Brahman and cows. And why protector of Brahmanas? Because it's the head of the society. If head is gone, then we'll see what happens. We can see around us actually what can happen, right? The Kali Yuga. So if someone is walking without a hand or leg, we can understand. But if someone is walking without head, imagine what is going to happen. We'll be scared, right? And if you think about who that personality is, that is Kali Yuga, right? There is no head, and the society is trying to walk, and there are repercussions of it. So let's see the characteristics of different varnas first. Very briefly, Prabhupada has elaborated it, so I'm just going to give examples. That's all. So Brahmanas. So of course, the modes of material nature generally is Sattva Gun, that is dominant in Brahmanas. Qualities are described in Bhagavad Gita, slok number 42. verse number 42, chapter 18. Mainly the qualities are being tolerant, austere, truthful. So they really like, because of the mode of goodness, they like austerity. It's unbelievable because, they want to be poor. They don't want to keep wealth with them. They just want to distribute it. So therefore, the duties of Brahmanas are like yajan, patan, dan, pratigraha. So of course, they can do charity, they can accept charity. But as soon as they accept charity, they give it away because they like to be poor. When Yudhishthira Maharaj for Rajasuya Yajna sent various Pandavas to various directions to get wealth that was required for Rajasuya Yajna, Arjun was sent towards north. And there he found wealth, lots of gold plates and things like that, thrown away by Brahmanas. In long time back, it seems, in a yajna, they were all given to them as charity, and they just threw those plates away. And that's the wealth Arjun collected. So we cannot even imagine today, right? Something like this. Someone wanting to be poor, someone throwing away gold or giving charity like this, not wanting to keep money with them. So, but that's the quality of Brahmanas, and they like to be that way. Truthful. So there is a story that comes in Chandogya Upanishad of Satyakam. Right? Satyakam, he approaches a guru and he wants to learn from that guru. And guru says, okay, what is your varna? And he says, I don't know, let me ask my mother. So he said, yes, go and ask your mother. And the mother says to him that, well, I have been seeing many men, she was a prostitute, so I don't know who is your father really and what is your varna. And Satyakam comes back and he tells his guru that exactly what his mother told, that I don't know what my varna is. And when Guru hears about it, he immediately says, you are a Brahmana. Because it is very difficult to tell this truth. And he didn't even flinch for a moment while telling the truth. So by qualities we can see that it's not by birth, right? It's by qualities. The Guru really understood that he's a Brahmana and said that I'll teach you. So we also see the example of Chanakya, how when Huang Shuang from China he came, he had these two lamps. One was for official work, and one was what he received in charity. And he was when he was doing official work, he was really using that lamp, right? And which was for the official purposes. And when he started talking to Huang Shuang, he turned off that and lit the other lamp. I was just thinking, how can we apply in today's world these things, right? These are qualities amazing. Difficult to see these qualities. We get so many facilities from our employers, right? Software industry. We utilize it for personal purposes also. And these days employers have assumed that this will be used personally. So they say that, okay, a limited personal use is okay for all these things. Very difficult. So these are like Brahmanas who are in Sattva Gun, and we can't find these people because there are no Brahmanas. Very difficult to find people in mode of goodness. So that's like Brahmanas. Kshatriyas, Prabhupada says that Kshatriya is chivalrous and he's eager to fight. It's not, and we are not talking about street fight, right? Some people are very eager to fight on the streets. Kshatriyas are not like that. For protection of Dharma, they are eager to fight. They are not like today's administrator, Prabhupada says, that they just sit at one place and encourage army to go and fight, but they will never fight a war. Prabhupada was telling that there is one Rajput king who actually participated in World War, and he jumped from a parachute. He was a Rajput king, jumped from a parachute and to participate in the war. And Prabhupada said that he's the last Kshatriya that was remaining. So such are Kshatriyas. When Bhim got an opportunity, when they were in the forest in Ekachakra Nagari, I think, when he got an opportunity to fight with Bakasur, he was so happy. He was looking forward to fight. These are the kind of chivalrous Kshatriyas that existed. We also know the story of Jarasandha, right? Jarasandha, despite not being devoted, of course, he was inimical to Lord, but he was still following Varnashram Dharma. When Arjun, Bhim, and Lord Krishna went as Brahman and begged for a charity, what did he beg? What did he beg in charity? A fight, really, right? And he said that, yes, because you have come as Brahmanas, I will give you charity. And he chose Bhim to fight because he thought that Bhim was compatible with him in terms of strength and things like that, right? So he considered it below his dignity to fight with Arjun. right? And Krishna also, because he thought that Krishna had run away from the battlefield and things like that. So these are even the inimical. We are talking about demons in those society. These were like that. So of course, Vaishyas, we talk cow protection, Krushi, Goraksha Vanijyam is their main business really, and they are the ones to bank money, and they give charity, they give taxes, they feed the entire society really. And Shudra are supposed to serve others. The great quality of Shudra is loyalty, right? They are loyal. In fact, generations of they serve their masters generations after generations. So so that's loyalty is their big quality. Today, if actually when I was about to leave the company, right, I had worked for one company for a long time. Today it's considered disqualification. Pretty much. If you don't leave the job and take another job, people think that well, maybe you are complacent, right, or something like that, right? So this is not considered a great quality these days. So this is what has happened. So important to understand is this is not by birth, but it is by qualities. So example is given of King Rishabdev's son. 100 sons of King Rishabdev. First 10 become Kshatriya, then next 9 became Navayonas, Nava Yogendras, so Paramahamsas, and next 81 became Brahmanas. So it's not by birth, it's by the qualities really. Same with Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. So Brahmacharis are meant to be trained, and when Guru sees that someone is detached, that person doesn't have to go to the Grihastha life, but when Guru sees that there is some attachment, one can go to Grihastha life, and but with the principle of detachment, and slowly get purified. We all know that Grihastha Ashram is also purified. Same as Brahmacharya Ashram also, but both are purifying in some sense. And then Vanaprastha and Sannyas. The goal of Grihastha Ashram is also to plan Vanaprastha, to get detached as well. So why Varnashram? So I think we have very less time. So I'll just quickly talk about how Varnashram is natural. Varnashram is so natural that even in company, you will see Varnashram is naturally being followed. Like Brahmana are R&D department, right? Kshatriyas are administrative departments. Vaishyas are like accounts and finance department. Shudras are like labor class, right? It is there everywhere. In fact, even Radha Maharaj says, His Holiness Radha Maharaj, even Plato, Greek philosopher, he observed how he envisioned a system, how there will be rulers, how there will be warriors, how there will be the merchants and laborers. In fact, His Grace Harivilas Prabhu's article I was reading, and he mentioned Communist Party tried to make a classless society, completely classless, all laborers. But by 1990, 4 classes automatically emerged. Right? One was the ruler class, other was a warrior class, third was merchant class, and fourth was labor class. So it automatically happened, the managers and things like that, right? So it's a very natural way to, based on the qualities, it happens. But importantly, the reason Varnashram Dharma exists and is given by Lord Krishna is because not everybody can take to Bhakti Yoga immediately, right? In fact, yesterday we were also discussing Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kashchit Yatati Siddhaya Yatadam Visidhanam Kashinman Veti Tattavata. It's very difficult to practice take to Bhakti Yoga. Even 0.001% people, even if they take to Bhakti Yoga, that's like big. So what about 99.999% of the people who are there? How will the purification happen for them? So for them who are attached to sense gratification, for their gradual purification, Varnashram Dharma is given. And the whole idea of Varnashram Dharma is to get gradually purified and then take to Bhakti Yoga. So it's like Varnashram Dharma is like a runway, right? And this analogy is given by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. So Varnashram Dharma is like runway, a takeoff point, and Bhakti Yoga is like taking off from there, right? So it's like that. So Varnashram Dharma also basically allows us to live in a very harmonious way, right? Materially also, but it results in purification. So it is possible that someone sees Varnashram Dharma disconnected from Bhakti Yoga, just follows Varnashram Dharma but not take to Bhakti Yoga. It's like building a whole runway and nothing takes off from there. So it's completely useless, right? Because the whole goal of Varnashram Dharma is to get purification and is to take to Bhakti Yoga. But if one doesn't do that, that's useless completely. So, so the idea is, there is also another analogy he gave, how helicopter and aeroplane, right? Aeroplane needs a runway to take off, and it can carry hundreds of people. Helicopter can take off from any point. So helicopter is like those people who practice bhakti in their previous life. They don't need any of these varnashram dharma. They can take off at any point, right? From there only. That's it. Take off. But how many people can sit in helicopter? How many people are those? There are like hundreds of people that plane has to carry. So when the plane goes on the runway, that's like varnashram dharma. And how do they get energy, right? How does the plane get energy? Because plane has to go at a fast speed and then take off from there. So that energy, one may say that for taking off means to take to Bhakti Yoga, to Krishna, the energy will come from attraction to God. But how many people, even the practicing devotees, don't have so much attraction to God that they will get energy from there, right? Even knowledge. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Nigraha kim karishyati. It's very, very difficult to give up this nature, right? That nature forces us to act in certain way. So Varnashrama kind of facilitates us to essentially engage all our talents, and at the same time get purified while doing those activities. And when one does activities which are very natural, one is like fully involved. I can see an example. One is fully into it, and then from there one gets energy. The purification happens very fast when one is doing that activity. I can tell example of my wife, right? She likes to teach. Okay, she did physiotherapy. She wanted to start clinic and all, but she realized, no, I want to teach. So she started teaching the physiotherapy. Now also she is teaching. So that's her soul's code. She just enjoys that. I'm also her student now. but we can see how when one likes certain activity, full energy is given to it, and the full purification also happens very quickly through these activities. So Prabhupada said, actually, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj Ocean of Mercy book, it is mentioned, ISKCON is for devotees, he said. But not everyone will become a devotee, and not everyone will be able to surrender to Krishna. For those who will not, who will continue to act according to the modes of material nature. In order to situate them in the proper human culture, we need Varnashram Dharma. So Prabhupada also thought that there should be a Varnashram Dharma introduced for the benefit of 99.99% of the people. But of course, Prabhupada's main contribution has been to create Brahmanas in the society. That's what he wanted to do. So without Brahman, what happens? Body without head. We discussed how body without head cannot function properly, and we can see the effect of that in today's world. That all the wealth given by God, all the facilities given by God to us, natural resources, they are all being misutilized, so to say. Nuclear energy, someone came up with, like Oppenheimer, Einstein, these people came up with, scientists came up with nuclear energy. They did not know that it can be used in a wrong way. But we saw that nuclear bomb was created by some those who did not understand the value of these natural resources. They used it for destruction. So it is very important when Brahmanas rule, it is a monarchy, right? But when Brahmanas degrade, and that degradation of Brahmanas happen is also given in Srimad Bhagavatam, how Shringi cursed Parikshit Maharaj, and from there Brahman class got degraded. And with that degradation, when the head is gone, when the intelligence is gone, then when Brahmanas try to exploit the other classes, that's when the degradation of society started. And now what we have is a completely degraded society without the head, and therefore we see when Shudras rule, that's when there is communism. When Vaishyas rule, that's capitalism, and when Kshatriyas rule, that's dictatorship, right? So what we need, Prabhupada recognized that what we need is actually Brahmanas today, and therefore he, in a headless society, he's tried to give scriptures, his purports, just to create Brahmanas, not just Brahmanas but Vaishnavas, who are even beyond Brahmanas. And he wanted to he changed the entire direction of society. Today, if you really see, if there is any hope for our society to become inclined spiritually, that hope comes from ISKCON, really, and from no other place, really, right? I don't want to talk I don't know much about other organizations, but from ISKCON, definitely that hope comes. And that hope was given by Srila Prabhupada by creating the head for the society. So Srila Prabhupada was once asked, if they make you the king of India, right? So what will you do? He said, I will not become the king, but I will become advisor to the king, right? So I think there is a lot to be said, but we can understand the glories of Srila Prabhupada, how difficult it was in a headless society to create this Vaishnava Brahmanas, and he has given us so much. And we are eternally indebted to Prabhupada, and the society will be eternally indebted to Prabhupada, because once a head is created, then actually it is possible for a body to function properly, and there is some hope that there will be some spiritual revolution that will happen in the society. So with that, with the gratitude for Srila Prabhupada, I'll stop here. So we just looked at what is Varnashram Dharma. We first looked at what are the 9 commandments, how they are the basic qualities of human beings. Then we looked at what is Varnashram Dharma. We saw some examples, and also we saw why Varnashram Dharma is needed. Then we talked about the importance of having Brahmanas, the head of the society. And we also talked about glories of Srila Prabhupada, how Srila Prabhupada created the head for our society, so that in future there is scope for spiritual revolution. So with that, I'll stop here. Srimad Bhagavat Mahapuran ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Sorry, Prabhu? Yes, Prabhu. I have planned to speak on 2 more topics. How Vaishnava is beyond Varnashram, Deva Varnashram. But I thought that this is I thought that this is probably a good point to stop. That's why I stopped.